I told you I wanted to give you a quick little or surprise you with, but basically one thing I think gets overlooked is just how much you've hustled since college. And so whether it's doing OTAs in your spare time, going to UNC and doing something in spare time, whether it's doing action sports at Delaware, whether it's going to California and helping out with like a surfing event and other action type sports, you've done a lot of just extra stuff. So when I hear people say they don't have time to do things, to me, that kind of it's an excuse. And so I guess, why did you want to do those things, and what led you to it, and how important is, how important do you see people having to hustle?
So 1,000% that needs to be resurrected with this generation of kids, right? Like I always joke, like kids these days, because we're not that old, but at the same time, there seems to be such a generational gap between, our class and then the students coming up. And I think they're very much in a generation of, I deserve this, or I should do the bare minimum and gain the most out of this experience. And that's just not the case, especially with athletic training. This is a profession of go-getters. And if you put in the bare minimum, you're going to get back the bare minimum. So I was always taught by my parents and just like people that I've been around, if you want the most out of your career, out of your education, you need to put in the extra effort. And, I always went after stuff that I thought was going to benefit me, or at least I found interesting. So action sports for me was just, I grew up that weirdo that was like, X Games, yeah, like, did I snowboard or skateboard when I was younger? No, but like I got into snowboarding when I was in high school. And, that was one thing that I always thought was super cool. And I never thought I could actually work it. So when that opportunity was presented to me, that was just like, of course, why would I say no to that? And then, being able to apply that to football, which was always my end goal from day one. So of course, going to UNC and working with the Tar Heels, that was my dream school when I was younger. So again, like getting that opportunity and going after that, I always knew, and it was always very, very calculated. Like I wasn't just doing random stuff just to do it, even though it is all very cool. It was always very calculated. I knew that this was going to get me to the next level. So I see it in my students, they're not necessarily thinking ahead like that or thinking like that at all of what I'm doing now is going to set me up for the future. And I think that's something that this generation really does need to appreciate and understand, is that just going to undergrad now is not enough, because everyone will leave undergrad with the exact same resume. And you have to make yourself stand out. In undergrad, I knew I was going up against men. And so I had to make my resume stand out, not only because it was a woman's name at the top of it, but because I had to prove that I was just as good as the guys that I was going up for GA positions with. So it's a bunch of different reasons why I did it, but I truly think that it's gotten me to where I am, and it's helped me be a better athletic trainer.
Yeah, I almost feel there has to be a give and take now, where someone doesn't want to do an internship because it's unpaid, or they're not getting college credit, or whatever the reason might be. They don't have, to pay for their own housing. And so I think that builds character, in a sense of, if it's something important, you'll make it work regardless of situation. And when you wait, it would be a great opportunity, but I just can't, which I definitely get. Like there's definitely circumstances where financials play a huge role into it. But if you can afford the means, I'm in the same boat as you. We both did internships during grad school.
Yeah.
And I just think it's important to, like you said, have that hustle. Like, think future minded. Future Chelsea needs to be set up, and present Chelsea needs to help with that.
Right. And like you and I, we didn't go do crazy stuff. Like when I went out to California for the Vans US Open, like that was essentially a paid for trip, and all I had to do was cover meals. And your internship in grad school, that was right up the road in Wilmington. When I went to the Panthers, I stayed with my best friend who lives in Charlotte. So it's easy to do these things and go after these internships as long as you can easily find a cheap Airbnb, someone that lives close by. And it's not like you need to go across the country and spend all this money. It's so easy to just find something nearby.
Yeah. What do you think, Victor?
A couple of things come to mind. I have a mentor who, paraphrasing, but he would talk about how he kind of has a greater appreciation for those who came up from poverty. So, and maybe it's not even poverty, but people that kind of had lower means growing up, because a lot of times they learn to thrive and survive, and it's kind of like the struggle builds their character. So I think that kind of translates into putting in that work, because if you are basically silver spoon your whole life, or through your college career or professional career, I mean, once they shut off the lights, take away your modalities, whatever it is, you should probably be able to operate under those conditions. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to complain facetiously, but like, we don't have air conditioning in our room for a couple days, and I'll jump all over that as far as
No AC is the worst.
right. But I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of you have to take a step back and say, hey, like, we still have plenty. And I don't know if that's going off on a different route, but the other thing too is, I think back about my time at school and appreciated it very much, but I think there was a certain part to where I felt taken advantage of. So like every Friday, it was up to the students to clean the whole training room, and none of the paid staff would do it. I think things can go a little too far to one end, to where I'm not getting paid to do that. Yeah, I'm getting the experience, but at the same time, I think that we have to be a little bit careful when we're in positions of power, that we're not looking down on these kids as saying like, hey, you got to do whatever it takes, so I'm going to give you all the crap. I think that you have to still, once you get to that position of power, you still have to be okay with cleaning or whatever it is. It's not like, okay, I earned my spot here, so now I don't have to do anything else. So I think you have to think about it through two perspectives. And just because, yeah, work ethic's great, doesn't mean that you should jump all the way into it and say, take advantage of these guys. So it's just
I would argue that though, with saying like, Nick and I at East Carolina, for part of football, was like every night or so we had to clean the tubs, mop the wet room. I still have bleach stains on my khakis from those damn tubs, by the way. Yeah, you had to mop the whole athletic training room. We had to wipe down everything. What did we call where we kept all the Gatorade coolers? Scales? Scales, which had one key, which was no.
No.
That was like the building name.
Hmm.
But I think it was called Scales. No, that was the old athletic training room, right? Remember when we found Brian Weiss's duffel bag?
Of alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just handles. But I will say, like, again, this generation of kids, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what's changed them, or what's changed in general with the world, but basic stuff with football, right? You set up, you break down, you restock Gatorade, you restock coolers in the meeting rooms, you move Gatorade from one room to another. And that's like too much. That's apparently too much for kids now. That's just like basic stuff. And it's frustrating to hear them say that stuff makes them feel taken advantage of. I would agree, like, cleaning the entire athletic training room to an extent is like a lot. One of my coworkers, Jacob Lauberman, he went to Iowa State, and he said that part of their like athletic training duties for football the night before a game was they had to wax the floors of the athletic training room. But even they were like, it was fun. Like, everyone was there. We stayed late. We moved everything. We turned it into a party. I don't think they drank while they did it, but they honestly might have. So like, party in the AT room. But I think it's how you see it, right? Like, how you view these situations. Like, if you're going to go into it with bad attitude, of course it's going to fuck you up. But don't think I could have said that. We turned it into a game at East Carolina. And so it's all about how you perceive the situation. Yeah, if you're going to go into it with a bad attitude, of course it's going to be miserable. But I think, as long as you look at it as, this is an opportunity for me to just hang out with my friends, and you look at it that way. But it's just kids these days, man. Kids these days.
I can see both sides of this. Whereas I don't think you should be giving, as a leader, I don't think you should be giving tasks to do just for these people to do the task because you don't have to do it. And so I understand, like, this stuff has to get done. You have to clean the training room tubs, whirlpool, like everything has to get cleaned. I think you reach a certain point where there's a lot more. That's what I'm learning more being in a different role. There's a lot more on our plate. And yes, this stuff is little. And I think I shouldn't be required to do it. Like in the sense of like, no one student expects me to go out and clean all that. I do it selectively now. And so like, I still do especially right now, there's not a lot of time. So I can help out all the time. But before, like I may make it a point to go out and help and clean and help do this. And so it shows that I'm still able to do that. And like, that's important, like from top down. I mean, book legacy, sweep the shed. You can't do it for little things. So there's both sides. Like, yes, you can make things that are tedious a game and make it fun.
Yeah.
Because it does have to get done. But at the same time, I shouldn't give someone a task that I am unwilling to do myself. I think kind of what you're getting towards, or like giving someone just monotonous work to do just because you have free workers there.
Yeah, like what we have our students do at football, they like to call grunt work, and it's more so behind the scenes. Like if they weren't here to do these jobs, we would be doing it. And so this summer, while there were no students with us, which was a first for us because of the pandemic, we were moving coolers, we were moving Gatorade. My interns were doing a lot more than they normally would, and so we were all pitching in where we could. And it's funny to think that we are certified, and I've been working for how many years now, and I was filling up coolers and moving Gatorade. So it's frustrating again when kids now are coming up and saying, I shouldn't have to do this. But at the end of the day, we're the ones behind the scenes still doing all this stuff that needs to be done.